Transmitting live from the Asylum Studios, deep in the bowels of Southwest Texas. It's the Joe Rooz Show. The show where we talk about anything and everything. Where nothing is sacred, nothing is watered down, and nothing is PC.
All right. Hey, folks, this is Joe Rooz, and it is great to be with you once again, transmitting as usual live at the Asylum Studios from the Pimple on the backside of Texas, the beautiful city of Eagle Pass. And of course, doing the very best we can to bring you the best quality talk radio we could muster without all the bluster. Welcome to the Joe Rooz Show. All right, we got a little bit of a late start tonight. Sorry about that, folks. The job has once again gotten in the way of fun. But then again, isn't that not what jobs do? Is that not why we try to get away from the job as much as you can? That's at least my excuse anyway. But guys, I hope you had a great day today. Hope you guys were able to check out the show last night. We had Lieutenant Colonel Ken Webb on the show, retired Lieutenant Colonel Ken Webb. Had a really wide-ranging conversation. Started talking about his book and ended up getting into a Bible study. So, which was unplanned, unexpected, refreshing in a way. But very, very interesting conversation that we had. And I look forward to being able to get in contact with him again and have another conversation with him because it was really fun. I did enjoy it. Great guy. Got to talk to him a little bit before the show, a little bit after via text, and really good guy. And I hope you guys got able to see the show, and I hope you guys got something out of that. It was very, very entertaining, at least for me anyway. Hope it was for you too. All right, folks, I just want to remind you that this is a live show, weeknights at 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And I also want to remind you to please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the show with your friends, your family, and your followers. That way you'll help us build an algorithm and you'll help us get found. So please help us do that. Like, subscribe, and share the show with all your friends, your family, and your followers. Spread it out across your social media. We'd really love that. We'd appreciate it. And I don't know, maybe we'll come up with something. Maybe we can find out some way to, find out who shares the most and, give some kind of a gift or something. I don't know. We'll figure something out. But we appreciate all the support that we get. Thank you very, very much for it. All right, so our guest, Tricia Copeland, is waiting for us in the wing. So let's get through the housekeeping stuff. This way we can bring her right up because she's been very gracious in forgiving our tardiness today. So, folks, I want to tell you about Podhome, podhome.fm. Podhome is the most modern and easy-to-use podcast hosting platform you're going to find. You can use Podhome to publish your episodes, enhance your audio, automatically generate chapters, titles, transcripts, show notes, episode art, chapter art, if you're that intrepid and you want to do that. You get all of that with Podhome. And you can even podcast live, which is exactly what we're doing. So not only are we doing a live video feed, we're also doing a live audio stream, which is going, of course, through all of the modern Podcast 2.0 apps like Podhome's app and Podverse and Pocket Casts and Podcast Guru, Fountain.fm, all those great new modern podcast apps streaming this thing live. We appreciate that. And then, of course, also, you can listen on our website. We have our HTML player right up there on the website. You can just listen in right there. It's a beautiful little media player that we've gotten, of course, from Podhome. So you can do all of that stuff. And, hey, look, maybe you're a podcaster. You're just getting started. You don't have your own website yet. Did you know that Podhome will give you a website free, no additional charge for that? You get all of the stuff to make a world-class podcast right through this one podcast hosting platform, podhome.fm. Everything you need in one affordable subscription of $15.99 a month. That's just $15.99 a month. And if you go there today and you sign up, you will get 30 days free. That's right. You get 30 days free to play with it. And then $15.99 a month after that. And I guarantee you're going to stick with it. Folks, I've used other platforms, other host platforms, and I pay double, sometimes triple when I'm paying with Podhome, and I got infinitely less than what I'm getting with Podhome. Check them out. Podhome.fm. You won't be disappointed. Podhome.fm. All right. And this upcoming segment of the show is brought to you tonight by Creative Edge Publicity. Publicity at its finest for all creatives. Your brand, your future. And for more information, check out their website at creative-edge.services. It's right up there on the screen. It'll also be in the show notes. Make sure you click that and check it out. Creative Edge Publicity. All right. Now, tonight, let's see. I remembered. I'm going to take care of this before I bring her. There we go. All right. So now tonight, we're joined by Tricia Copeland. Tricia is a multi-genre storyteller, fantasy, romance author, and the voice behind the long-running Finding the Magic Book podcast. A Georgia native, now in Colorado, Tricia has penned award-winning young adult urban fantasy like Kingdom of Embers, wrapped up epic, is it Fae? F-A-E?
Fae, yes.
Okay. Sagas like Realm Chronicles, crafted heartfelt contemporary romances under the pen name of Maria Jane, and hosts conversations with hundreds of authors about the magic of books, characters, and the art of storytelling. Tricia, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Joe.
So again, thank you so much. I do appreciate the flexibility with getting started tonight. The job gets in the way sometimes. Can't really help that, and I appreciate the leeway. So thank you. Thank you. I had a guest once that this happened. It was actually an emergency, and said that we were going to rebook it, and never heard from them again. So I appreciate the leeway. Thank you.
Well, I got 15 minutes of bonus time with my family, so I'm not going to complain about that.
That's worth it all. That's worth it all right there. So before we get into all about you and your book and what you do, really quick question for you. If your phone could only keep 3 apps, which ones are surviving the purge?
Netflix.
Okay.
Audible.
Okay.
And probably Chirp Books too, which is I don't know if you know what Chirp is, but it's also an audio book site. So entertainment. I need entertainment and distraction.
Okay. All right. I was thinking about that today when I was looking over the question. I was like, so I'm going to throw this one at her. I've never used that question. I have a list of like icebreaking questions. Never used that one. I said, I think this would be a good one to try it out on. And I got to thinking about it. I don't know what I would keep. I don't. It's like every app, I use every app on my phone. It's like, it'd be very hard for me to decide which one not to hold on to. But,
yeah, I guess as long as you're not calling like your messages an app too, right? Your messages is just basic, right?
Well, it depends. If you're using an Android phone and you're using the Messages app on the Android phone, that's put out by Google, so that's technically an app that they put on your phone, because there is a native app for messages on an Android phone. I don't know what it is on Apple phones. I'm not a big Apple guy, so I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah. I'll have to throw that at ChatGPT.
That would change things. But, yeah.
It would absolutely change things. But then again, I don't know if it would too much, because I don't know if I'd really want to hear from so many people. I do have a purge list of people that I'd like to eliminate. I don't mean physically, literally eliminate. I mean just not talk to.
And hopefully you wouldn't get all those messages from the banks that say we can loan you this much money, or
I hate those.
Or the political messages, or
those two. I have those filtered to my spam folder, but the funny thing is, I get them filtered to the spam folders, and I still get the notification saying, "Hey, there's a suspicious message in your spam folder." Well, duh. I mean, just leave it there. I don't care.
There's got to be a button to turn that off.
I will find it. I will find it, and I will report back. I will find it. One thing I did need to mention, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on your time here, but yesterday when I was talking with Colonel Webb, we were talking about a passage in Scripture, talking about esteeming a day for worship, and it's found in Romans chapter 14. All right, it's Romans chapter 14, because I couldn't remember it yesterday, and I told the audience I would get it for them. Romans chapter 14, verse 6, but read the whole chapter for the context. There you go. All right. So, what fictional character do you relate to a little bit too much?
A little bit too much. Fictional character. That's a hard one. I might go with somebody from a vampire show, maybe like Bella Swan, who's in love with vampires, because those are my favorite characters.
So are the vampires your favorite characters, or the characters who fall for the vampires?
The vampires are my favorite characters.
Okay. It's interesting because I grew up loving that that whole would that be considered gothic?
And some people consider it horror. And I was like, yeah, somebody told me the other day, they're like, no, vampires are automatically horror. And to me, vampires aren't scary, but I guess they do kill humans. So I guess that is horror. So
Well, it's like any animal, I guess. It has, that's what it does. I mean, you can't, dogs do what dogs do, and cats do what cats do, and vampires do what vampires do. I mean, we do what we do. It's the nature of things, I guess. I don't know. But what drew you to storytelling and writing in the first place?
I began my writing journey in a little bit odd way because I interview a lot of authors too. And they usually tell me, I don't think I've ever had someone tell me, no, I didn't like to write. Almost 99.9% of the time, they tell me, I love to write from a kid. I've always loved to write. I did not. I did not like to write until graduate school. And then my major professor taught me technical writing. And I thought, oh, I can actually write. Like, this is something I can write. Fast forward 20 years and I have some time off. I'm staying home with my kids, and my 20th high school reunion comes up, and I'm thinking about the past, and I had an experience with anorexia when I was a young adult. So I just started writing this story about this fictional character who has anorexia like me, and her story follows my story. And I got 160,000 words in, and my sister-in-law and my friend were like, this is a lot. You need to do something with this. Wow. So I indie published those first 2 books of the Being Me series, which is a fictionalized account of my experience with anorexia and recovery from anorexia. And that's how I started. Like, I just got the bug for writing, and it grew from there.
When I was a kid, I used to write a lot of little short stories and things like that, just like free form. I never really thought about what I was going to sit down and write, but I would just kind of like start doodling, and next thing I knew, I'd be writing these little short stories. And I ended up using that as an excuse to get out of certain assignments in school. I had my 5th grade teacher was fantastic with that. He really understood and let me do what I needed to do just to occupy myself. But I told an author the other day that I had in the show that I have actually an outline sitting sealed in an envelope that I mailed to myself back in the early 2000s. For a book about my career working in New York City, and I called it, Why I Wake Up Screaming: My Years Working in New York City, and because I worked for New York City for 23 years, and then I moved down here to Texas about 10 years ago. So that book, that idea for the book, is broken down by subject, by stages of my career and people who influenced me during that career. But it's more of like a sarcastic, these guys really irritated the life out of me the whole time I was there. So it was more funny than a serious memoir, I guess. But now you grew up in Georgia. So how did the environment growing up in Georgia influence your early writing and creative instincts?
I guess I had to be creative in the things we did because there wasn't much to do in my hometown. It sounds like maybe like near where you are in Texas. We had one movie theater that played 2 movies, and my parents actually didn't let me watch movies until I was like 16. So me and my sister used to play in the woods, and probably we were in danger of getting kidnapped or something most of the time, but we would build forts and we would
That's cool.
Make up stories, and we'd have this whole life. We spent most of our summers in the woods just making up stories and playing. I don't know what I can't even remember all our scenarios that we did, but and I loved reading as a kid, so I read a lot, but I never wrote as a young adult.
I used to love to read. I wish I had more time that I could actually read. I have a whole bookshelf in the other room loaded with books that I started to read, but I just don't have time to read as much as I'd like to. I do. I try to fit in some time as much anywhere I can, but I used to love to read, and I still do. I love the journey that it takes you on. Depending on the particular style of writing you're reading. But some of my favorites, I love Shakespeare. I love the old stuff. I love reading that. I found, I actually found a copy of Hamlet that I had from, I guess I was in high school, maybe junior high school. And I was looking at the highlights and the underlines and the notes that I scribbled in that little book, which is so old now. The pages are yellow, they're falling apart. They're like, you touch them, they're turning to dust. And it was interesting to see how, the things that I thought were interesting back then, the lines and the comments. And I was telling somebody else on another show a few days ago that I relate to a lot of the characters that Shakespeare wrote, and just my personal opinions of myself. And there's one particular line from King Lear that stays with me now. That I must have read it 1,000 times I over the years, but now for some reason it means something different to me now than it did back then. And the line is, "I am a man more sinned against than sinning." So it's a powerful line. It's a powerful thing. And that's what I love about it. That's what I love about Shakespeare and love about reading. So you get lost in those characters, then you eventually apply those things to yourself. And you can see yourself in a lot of those things. And I love getting lost in that trip and that journey. Now, you also...
That makes sense because your perspective would change over time, like
Sure.
from being a young adult to being...
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't really know of a lot of young adult type books or stories from when I was a teenager. I don't think it was really a thing back then, So, I grew up I was born in the 1970s, so I grew up in the late 70s, 80s. I don't remember too many like young adult themed novels that I would get into and read. So I don't know if do you think that's something that's a new trend now, the young adult novels, or is that something that's been around for a while but just not really popular until more recently?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the name of the author that was so popular, that was a young adult author, and they banned the books from our library. My Darling, My Hamburger, Judy Blume was the one. That's the only one I can remember that it was like about teenagers and the characters were teenagers. And I guess, but I read the Nancy Drew mysteries, which that was kind of, I think she was an adult though. She wasn't, she might have started out as a teenager, like an older teenager, like 17 or something. But obviously those weren't written in the 70s. They were written 50s, 60s. I'm not even sure. But so I read some of the Nancy Drew mysteries, I think. But yeah, you're right. I can't remember that there were really any of those stories like that.
So it's more of a recent development.
Maybe so.
That's neat. Now you also do a podcast. So tell us about your podcast.
Right. So my podcast is Finding the Magic Book Podcast. And it's funny because I initially wanted to call it just Finding the Magic Podcast. And I thought, well, that's kind of, people are going to think it's about witches or something, which we do talk about witches sometimes, but that's fine. But so I just threw book in there, and it's funny because people will say Finding the Magic Book. And I'm like, oh, well, I guess it is kind of that, but that's okay. Yeah, so I host a bunch of authors on my show, usually fiction authors from multiple genres. So every once in a while I'll have poets and sometimes nonfiction or inspirational authors. But yeah, it's just so fun. I started in 2020, and when I couldn't go to all my events, like I used to go to author events, cons, see my author friends, and I really love that, just like getting together with other authors and being able to talk about your craft and about writing, and I miss that. So I started my podcast because I thought, well, if I talk to my friends and we like release it to the world, then everyone will be able to discover our books. And that's how it started. It sounds like you a little bit, like it just grew and grew and grew. So I'm in my 6th season this year.
Wow. And how long now? That was 6 seasons. How long have you been doing it?
6 years.
So
this is the 6th year. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I started this one back in November 2024, okay. And like I was telling you before the show, and I never intended it to go this route. It just seemed took a life of its own. I signed up for a service called Podmatch, which very proud to be part of the Podmatch podcast network, and one of their brand ambassadors now, and it's a great platform. It's great. Basically what it is, and if you're not familiar with it, it's basically a dating app for podcasters. That's the easiest way to describe it, because you set up a profile, and it builds an algorithm based on your profile, and that it matches you with guests. and then you decide, swipe left, swipe right, do I want to match or not? And I've met some incredible people through Podmatch. It's a great platform, and I've noticed that the majority of the guests that I was getting were authors, and so I wasn't particularly picky. Like let's see what this person has to say. I would just anybody that I came across that seemed remotely interesting, I would send a message to. Hey, let's get together. Let's do a show. And I've done 63 interviews with Podmatch, and it's a great little platform, and that's what kind of what built it into what it's become. Originally, this was just going to be like, a once in a while, whenever I felt like doing it, because I'd been doing podcasts before. I did a podcast for 3 years where I just did Bible study. And then I started all this stuff back in 2015, 2016, when it was called Internet Radio. Me and a bunch of friends up in New York, we got together, we did a show one night a week. It was a lot of fun. We had a blast doing it. And then in November, I decided I'm going to take a break from the other podcast, put that aside for a little while. I kind of hit a block, like I wasn't sure where I was going to go with it. And I started doing this, and I was like, I'm only going to do it when I feel like it. It's not going to be a regular thing. And the next thing I knew, here I am, I'm doing shows, and I hooked up with Podmatch, and now I'm booked every single night. I didn't figure out how to set the calendar right. So people were just booking and booking and booking and booking. And I was booked all the way through. I think I went 3 months straight with interviews every single night. And thank God I have Angela. She's great. She's one of our executive producers. We have tiers, and I'll explain that later on sometime. But she's one of our producers, and she helps me out tremendously. She does a lot of the she puts a lot of the show notes together for me. We talk about it and say, well, let's do this and let's do this, and she puts it all together in this really nice list, and she sends it over to me, and it's ready to go. And that takes one thing away while I set up the streams and all the promotions and all that stuff. Work great. It's a great team, and she's been great, and it's just grown so much. It's like I'm baffled at why it's grown so much, but it has, and it took me, when I was doing the other Bible study, the podcast, I did it for 3 years, and I hardly any try. It took me a year to gain the downloads that I have with this show. To get the download, it took me 3 years to get it on the other podcast. So this is just it. So I love doing it. It's a lot of fun. I think it's the greatest medium in the world to get to meet people, to meet great people. Every guest that I've had on the show, I've learned something from. It's been a real treat. It's been a blessing, and met people I never probably would meet in regular life. So it's a great thing, and podcasting is amazing. It's absolutely amazing, and like I've been asked this question, so I'm going to ask you this question: how did you transition from being a writer to a podcast host? I mean, I went from working in law enforcement to doing podcasting. How did you transition from that?
Right. Well, actually, I have to credit Toastmasters. I don't know if you're familiar with that group, but I have another business as well. And when I kind of was transforming from a stay-at-home mom to running that business, I realized my speaking talent wasn't exactly up to snuff. Being in front of people wasn't as comfortable as it used to be when I was in the workforce. So I went to Toastmasters, and they have levels and assignments. You can kind of pick what you want to do. But so one of the projects was start a podcast and produce a podcast. And this was in 2020, the same time I was missing my interaction with my author friends. So I thought it kind of just came together for me, and that's how I launched it. And so, yeah, I love it. And having it grow is a lot of fun, and having people seek and find me out, especially from a lot of like the big publishing houses. That's really cool.
Yeah. Now you write across several different genres. How do you balance that? How do you balance writing across those different genres?
I only write one book at a time. So if I'm writing fantasy, I'm writing fantasy. I don't try to mix it up and write two different things. And if I'm writing fantasy, I'm not reading fantasy. I'm usually reading something else because I don't want to be influenced by what I'm reading too. But my fantasy tends to be really intense. It's, it's world building, it's characters. I put my characters through a lot, and I have to do bad things to them. So when I'm done with that, I kind of have an emotional hangover. Like, I need something light and fun, and a story where the worst thing that's going to happen is somebody's going to break up with you or somebody's going to dump you. So then I jump over and I write my romances, and they're kind of feel good stories that have their happily ever after, and I can wrap them up in one book and not have this like long drawn out fantasy where you are waiting for the happily ever after at the end.
I get you. And early you were talking about the name of the podcast. You're putting magic in the title, and people automatically start thinking that it's about witchcraft or something like that. But you do believe that magic is central to both life and storytelling. And why is that?
Well, I started thinking about my creative process, and I never thought of myself as a creative. Like, I was a scientist, I did research, and to me that wasn't a creative process. And I was trying to figure out how I got from doing that to writing books, which made no sense to me. And then I was jumping through all these genres. I mean, I started with sort of inspirational women's fiction, and then I jumped into witches and vampires, and then I started writing about fairies, which I never thought I'd write about fairies. I have a dystopian 2-book series, and what was going on with that in my mind. But so I was looking for something that tied all this together. Like, what is creativity and what ties like one book to another book? So to me, it was just magic that these ideas pop into my head, and that I have this talent. I mean, I worked hard in my talent. I mean, I didn't know what plot was in the beginning, and so I had to learn a lot of those things. But to me, it's just, the magic is the creativity. It's the ideas that you have, or it's the peace that you get from walking in nature, or it's the love that you feel from people in your lives. All of those things to me are magic, which is just really another word for special moments or things that bring you joy.
I can understand. I can understand that, and I can relate to that too. I mean, I'm not an expert in podcasting. If I was, I'd be Joe Rogan, not Joe Rooz. But I understand. You learn as you go, and you build upon experience and the things that you pick up along the way. Like I say, I pick up something from everybody that I have on the show, and I add that to my repertoire, if you want to put it that way. And eventually I use it somewhere down the line. I got a little gimmick I'm going to use in a little bit, after we're finished with our interview, when I do a read for somebody. So little repertoire things. It's fun. It's fun. Now, so what exactly is your process though, for when you're world building in fantasy versus the dystopian and the romantic?
Right. Usually I have a cue. So when coming off my women's fiction series, I really wanted to write fantasy because I love vampires, love fantasy characters. My first idea was to write a vampire novel. So my first character was a 17-year-old vampire witch hybrid, which normally are and in my world, they're also forbidden by both the witches and the vampire cultures. It's urban fantasy, contemporary. They live in the human world, but the humans don't know, right? And not fortunately or unfortunately, I won't say that, because it's a very successful series. But what morphed in my brain from this one character who didn't know where she fit, was she a witch or was she a vampire? What did that look like in her life? Because also her mom was like mainstreaming her into human high school, where she had to pretend to be human and not witch or a vampire. So you have a lot of those issues going on, but from that grew a curse on the witch lines that her and 2 other witches had to come together to break. So it really more morphed into a witch series than it did a vampire series. So there's 4 books in the series, told through each of the voices of the different main witch characters. So that's why it's called the Kingdom Journals, because each witch tells their story, as well as, the overall story of the 3 witches finding each other and breaking this curse. And so that was my first fantasy series. And it didn't actually turn out to be a vampire series, but I feel like my ideas just build on each other. Like, it usually starts with a character, and then, okay, who is this character? What's going on with them? What does their world look like? What are their challenges? And if I have a theme, sometimes I've written for anthologies, and like when I wrote my dystopian, it was a theme of healing. And because my background is microbiology, what came to me was like curing a disease, right? That was healing for me. So that led to my pandemic book, which is not as popular as it was before the pandemic. But so that's how I jumped into that one. And with the fairies, I just saw a picture of a fairy. And I was sitting there bored, and I thought, oh, this is a cool fairy. What's she doing? Like, she looks like she's scared. What is she scared of? Why would she be scared? So just like all those questions build on each other and snowball into 5 and 6 book series.
So what are some of the common mistakes that new authors make when writing character arcs?
What are common mistakes? Let's see. Well, I guess the only thing I can take from that is like sometimes when I read a book that doesn't sit with me or doesn't interest me or doesn't draw me in. So I guess, something that's going to draw you in the beginning, some hook that, you're bonded to the character, you like the character, you sympathize with them in some way, I think. So if you leave those out, you're not going to draw the reader in. And depending on what genre you're writing in, I mean, YA has to go very fast and it has to have a lot of action. If you don't, one of my books, I sent it to my editor and she's like, I was bored for the first 10 chapters. And I thought, there's only 20 chapters in the book. So I had to go back and add a lot more action in the whole half of the book. And so, yeah, it depends on the genre, what the expectation of the reader are, and how you're interacting with them and making sure that they're engaged and liking the characters and not going to stop reading your book.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to say that you had only 12 chapters in the book.
I had a few more than 12, but half the book. And when you're in the editing process, at least for me, like I give it to my editor. She takes 2 weeks on a first pass and she gives it back to me. I only have 2 weeks to turn it back around to her again. So it's like rewriting half the book in 2 weeks. I was just sitting at my computer for the whole time.
I can imagine. Now, how do you know though that a story actually has heart before it gets published?
How do I know? Well, I cry. I'm a big crier. So if I'm not crying at some point during my book, then that would be a sign that it's not emotionally engaging to me, which would be bad because I have a really low threshold. So it needs to be at least emotionally engaging to me to, hopefully pass that bar of those characters being either likable or having some challenge that even in fantasy worlds, you have challenges that we as mere humans are going to relate to.
So. Of course. Now, do you get a lot of feedback on some of your stories?
I do. It's a lot of fun. I have a big newsletter list and hopefully that's always growing. And I love getting emails of, I love this part or I hated this part because you should have done this to this character. Like, I'm sorry.
Don't you feel? But to me, that would be that's like a big compliment that somebody would get so involved in the individual characters that they would want to see or at least try to talk to you about how a different direction for them to go. That they actually care about the character. They actually care about, and that's to me anyway. That's an incredible talent as a writer to have, that you could actually make people feel something for a written character, somebody who doesn't even really exist.
That's really the goal, yeah, and it is the highest compliment that people feel like they're embedded. They're, they're what is the word? I can't think of it. But anyway, they want to know what's going on with these characters, and they invested, I guess, in these characters. Because the characters live in my head all the time, so I'm just glad somebody else is there with me.
Do you base your characters off of anybody that you know, or are they just a spontaneous creation?
No, yeah, they're spontaneous creations. I think all authors blend in personalities of people they know or personalities of people in other fiction or TV shows. But no, I mean, besides the first series, which was a fictionalized account of my experience, I haven't really based anything off anyone else.
Okay. Now let's talk about your books a little bit. Let's talk about To Be a Fae, right?
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about the book. Tell us about the series.
Right. So this is To Be a Fae is the last or the final book in the Realm Chronicles series that begins with To Be a Fae Queen. And the main character is a fae or fairy princess. And there's a lot of fairy books out there right now. They're pretty popular. My fairies are a little different because I didn't read any of those books before I wrote mine. And part of me was like, oh no, I've done something really wrong. But my fairies do have wings and they can tell lies, although they often don't. They don't usually. And they live in a realm just under the human realm. So it's contemporary, but it feels very epic fantasy because they don't have technology like computers or electricity. They live very much in like medieval times society, and they can see the humans. They see what we're doing. They can hear us through these fairy rings that are magic rings they can pass in and out of if they would like, but they kind of leave the humans alone. They were put there by the creator, quote unquote, to protect the humans from all the evil spirits in the lower earth, which is the bad souls that have been put in lower earth. So they were kind of put in middle earth as a buffer between the humans and the evil spirits there. But my main character, Titania, she is a fairy princess at the beginning. She's lost 4 of her older brothers, so she's the last one in her line to take up the monarchy. She wins a battle for her father, and he decides, hey, I'll give you the crown. And she's only 15. So she's the first female monarch in her realm, and she's 15 years old, and everyone is shaken up by this. All the other monarchs think, oh, I'm not sure if she can lead. And people, even in her own kingdom, are like, I don't think she can lead. So she has a lot of challenges in the beginning that she has to overcome. And then there is an evil witch soul who's hunting her, who's decided that she should not exist anymore. So that is the other major challenge in the series, is dealing with this evil witch soul.
Wow, that's
that's a lot. I know. I hit you with a lot there.
No, that's great though. I mean, I wanted more. So I'm gonna have to buy the books. But what made you decide to bring that series to a close?
I had done so much to this poor Queen Titania. She had a lot happen to her, and I knew where, from the beginning of the series, I knew where I wanted it to end with how I wanted it to end. I knew, and it was a crossover series to my Kingdom Journal series that I talked a little bit about. That evil witch soul was named Sonia, and she was the main villain / antagonist in the Kingdom Journal series as well. So these characters really mismatch and in the end come together to try and beat this Sonia character, who is now a soul. So it was a culmination of a 10-book series and just came together really well. I'm really excited, but I probably won't go back there because poor Titania, I just did a lot of sad things to her, and I can't see like going back. You always have to do something. There has to be a challenge, right?
Sure.
And I can't give her any more challenges. She needs to live her life happily ever after now.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Now, how long did it take you to write that? Because you said it was 10 books.
Right. So I started in 2017 when I published the first Kingdom Journals book, and then I ended it in 2025. So that's 8 years there. So yeah.
And in between, you just focused on that for the 8 years, or you did stuff in between?
Yeah, I wrote romances in between. For the first several years of publishing, I was publishing 3 books every year, and then the past 2 years, a couple of years, it's only been 2 books a year. But that's a good pace for an indie writer, I think.
Oh, from what I understand of the whole process, I mean, that's amazing that you can actually be that productive over that period of time, with it across the different genres. Which character in your latest book surprised you the most?
Which character surprised me? Oh, wow. I usually have a breakout character that's like one that, and I don't know if it's in my latest book, but in the Kingdom Journal series, I will tell you, I was writing the second book, which was Kingdom of Darkness. Wow, I'm like forgetting my own titles. But there's a villain character, and I just couldn't make him a villain. Like, he was playing so nice. He was faking being so nice. And then I felt really bad for him. So I made him not a villain character. And then he somehow got his own book after this. Like he's the main character in a whole book, which is Kingdom of Honor is the next book. So that kind of gives his character away. But yeah, he was my most breakout character where I was like, no, this guy was a villain. Oh wait, he's too nice to be a villain.
And he got his own book out of it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you ever think a book would break the rules as you wrote it?
No, I mean, I had set what I thought was going to be my plot and who the characters were and what their roles were. So it was interesting to me that I kind of just switched him in that book and had some other people fill in those villain characters.
Well, that's good. Now, what do you hope that readers take away from the latest release that you have?
So the latest release, I can show you the picture.
Yes.
It's To Be a Fae. So that is the finale to the Realm Chronicles series. And that one's really about, I have different themes in each book, like some are love, faith. And I think the theme in this one is just courage, and courage to be like yourself and be true to your own person or your own ideals and your own vision. So it's really that courage piece, I think, for this one.
Actually, I used the cover for that book as the background on our episode.
Oh, fun. Yay. Yes, I love my fairies, and my cover person, she did an amazing job.
It's beautiful. So, do you see any of your worlds heading out to TV, movies, anything like that? Netflix miniseries or anything?
That would be amazing. I almost, so many people ask me, and I'm like, yes, somebody call me, somebody email me, whatever you would like to do. I did take a screenwriting class this year, just kind of stretch myself and learn something new. And it was interesting, even as the author of a book, how different the screenplay ended up being. Like I was converting one of my books to a screenplay, and really it makes you tighten up the plot and really just have one major plot line, one major character that you're following. You can't do all these side things that you can do in novels. So it was a really interesting process. It was fun.
Now in interviewing other authors, and you've done over 6 seasons of interviewing authors. I mean, what's the best advice that you've ever received?
From interviewing or from the other authors? The best advice, I think it's just go with your passion. I mean, it sounds like most of the authors I talk to, even if they're like really introverted or really not comfortable initially when they're talking to you, if you get them talking about their books and their characters, they could talk for hours. So I think it's just, and you can hear that passion coming through. So I think if you're passionate about something, then just going with that passion and being courageous enough or brave enough to follow through on that.
I agree with you. I agree. And you could tell just by listening to you, you could tell how invested you are in the work that you've been doing. And I think that's fantastic. I've interviewed some folks where it just seems like they were just trying to make a buck. And I've interviewed people like yourself who have so invested in their characters and so invested in the time and the effort they put into this. You could see it in them. You could see it. You could see their heart in it, which is, I think, great. And not only because it sells books, because you're putting your whole self into it, but it's a passion that you have. It's something that drives you to it, and it's. I think that's fantastic. That's fantastic. What's something that you think that you wish that listeners understood about publishing?
What they understood about publishing. I think listeners and most people, because most people, when you say, oh, I wrote a book, they're like, wow, a book. Like to write it, number one, but then to like put it out for the world and be brave enough to put yourself out there. But I guess the behind the scenes thing of the marketing and being discovered is probably one of the hardest processes for me as a person who wasn't. I have another business too, and I kind of learned to market that business, but it's very different from the author business. So like especially if you're an indie publisher, having to wear all those hats. So I'm marketing, I'm doing my social media, I'm you do everything, so it kind of takes over your life sometimes.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I do. And I was going to ask you about that too. Is there a difference between self-publishing, indie publishing, and working with a publisher? What's the dynamic?
Right. So I think if you're with one of the big publishers, so Random House, Penguin, those big ones, then they have a lot of marketing behind you, one of those A-list authors, and you don't have to do as much, but you have to show up, right? They're booking you on tours and signings, and you still have a lot to do, right? It's still a lot of time input into that. If you're with a smaller publishing house, they may not give you, and I've talked to a lot of authors about these differences, they may not give you any marketing support. I mean, you're on their website, but much past that, you are kind of in charge of doing it yourself if you really want to pimp out your book. I say that's not the right term, but a lot of people use that for things. So I'll say that. And then if you're just an indie publisher like me, you do everything. I mean, I upload the files to the publishing thing. I run my own social media accounts. I run, so, and I get my own cover person. I get my own formatter. I get my own editor. All of those things, and finding people that are good people that can help you make your book the best it can be is probably the biggest part of that.
Sure. I mean, I understand what you're saying, because I have to do all the promotion and such for the podcast, myself. I have to do the social media stuff, and I hate social media. I really do. If I could use the word loathe when it comes to social media, I loathe social media. I just think it's just trash. That's honestly. But that's why I call it fake book for a reason, because everybody's only putting out their best moments. Nobody's really talking about the heart problems that they're having. But but I understand where you're coming from, because I have to do all the social media posting myself. And I have Angela who helps with the show prep itself, which is huge for me. It's huge. But for the longest time, I just neglected the social media stuff. Like, I would get on once in a while. I wouldn't do anything. I'd kind of just, like something and share something and just move on. But now this year, I decided that I'm going to try to make more of a push on the social media stuff. So I've been making use of automations a lot, to be honest with you. There's some great free software out there that you use. You can automate social media posts. I mean, you write it, you create it, but you're not sitting there going to each platform and posting it yourself. You have this one place, you just put it in there and you send it out, and you set a time for it to go out, or however you want to do it. Made it a little bit easier, but still it's a drag. It's hard. It's a lot of work. It truly is. And it takes a lot of your time. Like you said, sometimes it's, oh man, sometimes I feel like I'm sitting there for hours just trying to come up with something to write down and how to phrase things, and then set up, of course, all the streams and get all that stuff going. Then, of course, I'm also tech support. So if something goes wrong, I'm sitting here trying to figure out how I'm going to fix that. It's like last week I had started off the new year with a gremlin that wouldn't let me stream on half of the platforms that I'm streaming on right now. And afterwards I had to go and take the video. I had to download the video. I had to upload it to the different platforms and just rewrite everything. And wow, what a pain that was. But yeah, no, I can relate to that. I'm sure other people in that that write and that do podcasting can understand that. Question for you though, now, this just popped in my head. What's the difference between a writer and an author?
Maybe an author is someone who has actually published their writing. And I don't quote that because it might not be from Merriam-Webster, but kind of in my mind, that's probably the difference there.
Yeah, because I was thinking about that not so long ago, because you hear that term used interchangeably, but I know there has to be a difference between just a writer and an author. I mean, I can say, well, I'm a writer. I sit and I write little things here or there, and I little narratives and blurbs and promotions and things like that. Doesn't mean I'm an author. So I don't know. It was just
I think author is more that official title. Like if you had a title of a book, Gone with the Wind, you wouldn't say the writer is,
Right. I get you. Right. So what's next for your creative journey? Any projects, collaborations, reinventions?
Right. So I have a new romance coming out this spring, I guess in June, the 1st of June, Perfect Secrets in the Perfect Romance series that is pinned under Maria Jane. So that's really exciting. It seems like my romances are getting a little more edgy as I go, which I'm not really sure why they're trending that way. But my last one was an office romance where one of the characters kind of uses the other character in a, morally gray way a little bit. And then this one is Perfect Secrets. So obviously secrets. There's secrets on both sides for both characters. So that's going to be fun to see how people are reacting to that book. And yeah, I'm excited to get that out there and then see where my next fantasy
When can we expect
goes. So yeah, Perfect Secrets will be out in June. I think it's June 2nd.
Okay.
Right. Or yeah, it's early June.
Okay. Well, we'll put a mark on our calendar, and if you want to come back on and talk about that when it's ready to go, you let me know. I'd love to have you back on for that.
That would be fun. Yes.
Awesome. Now, if you could rewrite any classic story, which would it be and why?
Oh, I can rewrite any classic story.
Anyone.
Wow.
Just not Shakespeare.
Not Shakespeare. Okay. Bram Stoker. I am a big fan of his, and I really like his writing, but they're kind of dark and they don't have happily ever after endings. So I might rewrite those endings for him. And the Stoker people are probably going to Foundation is probably going to come after me for that, but they write very good new work too. So I'm loving their new work.
So I'm a big Poe guy. I love Poe, and I could read, but another dark guy. I mean, some of his things just make you sit there and like, man, I thought I was depressed. Holy cow!
Yeah.
Good night. That's I feel better now, but no, I love that stuff. But I don't know if I want to rewrite anything like that. I think they're perfect.
Well, yeah, I love them, and it's a challenge. But I would write like a little happiness at the
end. Okay. So like I guess Dracula and Mina would actually fall in love at the very end, and she'd run off with him, and that would
but he was so twisted. You wouldn't want that either, right? So I don't know. Oh, that's right. She could change him to a good person.
Well, if you go according to the movie that came out in 92, I think it was Francis Ford Coppola did his version of it at the very end. Like she professed her love for him, and at the I don't know if anybody spoiler or not, but it's how many years ago, and she kind of they had this whole big redemption scene at the very end. It was, I don't know, maybe something like that.
Maybe.
Because I don't think that was in the original book. I don't remember that.
No.
But as a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, the end of the original book was kind of brutal.
Mm-hmm.
to say the least. All right. So Tricia, who's somebody that you respect right now, and what are they doing that inspires you?
Oh, wow. There are so many people that I respect now. I'm just going to pull this out of my hat because my editor is someone I very much respect, and she is just a very authentic person and a real person too, and has a lot of different creative outlets. She does art as well as editing. She's a writer. And so Jo Michaels with Indie Books Gone Wild, she also has her own company who helps indie authors. So I'll just plug her, and she's my second editor. My first editor was a friend of mine who also worked with Indie Books Gone Wild, and it was better for our friendship probably if she wasn't my editor. And then I was like, oh my gosh, but I've had this editor the whole time, and I don't know if I can work with someone new. And Jo has been amazing and great to switch over to. So.
Outstanding. So where can we go to find out more about you and your work, and you can get your books?
Right. So my website is triciacopeland.com. If you're listening, TRICIACOPELAND. And if you go there, you can get 2 free short stories when you sign up for my newsletter. So whether you like fantasy or romance, you could read some short stories and see if you want to read more.
Outstanding. And we will make sure we have all of those links in the show notes, so anybody can just go through them and click on them and find their way over to you. All right, Tricia Copeland, thank you for tonight. I really appreciate it. This was great.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you so much, Joe.
And you're welcome to come back when your next book comes out in June. We're looking forward to that. And I will be in touch with you.
I love that. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great night. Thank you.
Bye.
All right, folks. Tricia Copeland. Wow, that was great, man. I'm telling you, I know I sound like a broken record, but every guest we've had on the show has been phenomenal. They've been I gleaned something from everybody, and this is great. Another one right here. So I want to thank to Creative Edge Publicity for setting up this interview, and we really do appreciate that. And make sure you go over and check them out if you are in the market for a publicist. Creative Edge, you can check them out right there on the website. Link will be in the show notes. All right. Also, just want to give a very quick shout out here to New York City. It's NYC Maddie, who has been watching over on Instagram. And the reason why we want to call him out is that's my son. So I'm very happy anytime my boy watches the show. Appreciate him and for doing that. All right. Well, folks, guess what? It's tax season. And you know what I feel about taxes, right? Taxation is theft, but you still got to file your taxes, right? So tax season is right around the corner, and Diamond Dynasty Tax Group Legacy is your place to go for your tax filings. All right. They did my tax filings for me last year, and they did a really great job. I really do appreciate them. And if you want to have an experience where you maximize your refunds and you minimize your stress, just call 830-867-7106, 830-867-7106, and get yourself a consultation. The great folks over there, they're really going to work with you. They'll help you out. And again, hey, they did really good by me, so that's why we're plugging them. All right, so this Diamond Dynasty Tax Group Legacy, 830-867-7106. And remember, taxation is theft. All right. Let's see what else we got. All right, so our shout-outs, of course, to our producing team, executive producers Wayne Rankin, Rosanna Rankin, Carolina Jimenez, Marissa Lee, and, of course, Anonymous Angela. Thank you guys for all that you do through your donations of your time, your talent, your treasure. We really do appreciate that, and we couldn't do this stuff without you. So, again, thank you so very much for it. Now, if you'd like to find out more about how you can help support the show, just visit our website, joerooz.com/support. And you could find all of the different producer tiers that we have available to you. Quick rundown. If you want to be an associate producer of the show, it's $17.76 a month. If you want to be a producer of the show, it's $18.36 a month. And executive producers are $25 a month. And all the producers get the shout out on every show. They get included in all of our show notes. They get included in all the emails that go out from the show in our newsletter. All of that, everybody gets it. The executive producers, however, get to come on the show with us. And normally we have our Wednesday with Wayne segment, but Wayne was unavailable tonight to come on. So we're not going to have him, but we will try to get him back here next week because he has a lot of stuff he wanted to talk about. So let's push for Wayne. Let's push for Wayne. All right. So again, just head over to the website, joerooz.com/support. And you can help us out there if you want to donate cryptocurrencies. Our crypto wallet information is up there. Donation tabs up there. Many, many ways that you can help us out. All right. So with all of that said, let's see. No show tomorrow. We are off tomorrow night. And then we'll be back here on Friday with Michael Mansfield. All right. So make sure you tune in 7 o'clock Friday night, and we'll see you here. All right. I think that should be all that I have for you for tonight. Now, don't forget, head over to the website and take a look around. Sign up for the newsletter. Do all that great stuff. All right, folks, make Texas independent again. Go podcasting, keep a steady stride, and keep talking. We'll see you Friday night, folks. Good night.
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Who cares about the clouds if we're together?
Just sing a song and bring the sunny weather.